Every single person watching this video has dreams. Every person wants something bigger. More money, more freedom, a stronger body, a better future, respect, success, happiness. Everybody imagines a better version of their life when they lie awake at night. But the harsh reality is that most people will never reach the life they dream about, and the reason is not lack of intelligence. It's not bad luck. It's not because the world is unfair. Most people fail because they become comfortable making excuses for why they can't change. And the scary part is that excuses sound reasonable. That's why they are dangerous. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to ruin my future. Instead, they say things like, I'll start next week, or I'm too stressed right now, or I just need more time. Day after day, year after year, those small excuses slowly destroy their potential until one day they wake up older, weaker, full of regret, wondering where all the time went. Think about how many times you promised yourself you would change. You said this was the year you would become disciplined. You said this was the month you would finally take control of your life. You planned everything perfectly in your head. You imagined success. You imagined transformation. But then reality hit you. The alarm rang early in the morning, and suddenly your bed felt more comfortable than your goals. The work became difficult, and suddenly quitting felt easier than continuing. You got tired, distracted, emotional, and instead of pushing through the pain, you started negotiating with weakness. That is how excuses begin. Weakness never arrives screaming. It whispers. It tells you to rest for one more day. It tells you that skipping today doesn't matter. It tells you that tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And eventually, your whole life becomes a collection of wasted opportunities. The truth most people avoid hearing is simple. Nobody cares about your excuses. The world does not reward excuses. Bills do not disappear because you are tired. Your body does not become healthy because you are stressed. Success does not arrive because you had good intentions. The world only responds to action. There are people right now who are exhausted and still working. There are people with fewer opportunities than you who are fighting harder than you. There are people dealing with pain, rejection, depression, failure, and pressure who still wake up every single day and attack their goals with discipline. Meanwhile, average people sit around explaining why they cannot succeed. And while they explain, somebody else is winning. That is the part people hate to admit. Your excuses make you feel safe because they protect you from responsibility. The moment you blame your circumstances, you avoid blaming yourself. You can say life is unfair. You can say people didn't help you. You can say you were unlucky. But deep down, you know the truth. You know there were moments when you could have pushed harder. You know there were opportunities you ignored because comfort felt easier. You know there were days you wasted on distractions while your future slowly slipped away. Potential means nothing without execution. The graveyard is full of people who had talent, full of people with dreams, full of people who said they were going to become successful someday. Someday is the biggest lie weak people tell themselves. Someday is where ambition goes to die. Look around at modern society. Most people are addicted to comfort. They spend hours scrolling social media, watching other people live the life they want, but they refuse to suffer long enough to build their own. They want confidence without struggle. They want money without sacrifice. They want success without discipline. But life does not work that way. Everything valuable has a price. You want a strong body? Then you must suffer in the gym. You want financial freedom? Then you must work while others are wasting time. You want respect? Then you must become reliable, disciplined, and mentally strong. There is no shortcut around pain. Pain is the entry fee for greatness. But weak people run from pain, so they create excuses to justify staying weak. They say they are too busy, but somehow they have hours for entertainment. They say they have no energy, but they stay awake all night, wasting time online. They say they want change, but their actions prove they are more loyal to comfort than to their goals. Your life changes the moment you stop lying to yourself. That moment is powerful because most people never reach it. Most people spend their entire lives pretending they are victims instead of accepting responsibility. Responsibility is heavy, but it is also freedom. Because once you accept that your future depends on your actions, you stop waiting for somebody else to save you. Nobody is coming. No motivational video will magically transform your life. No perfect opportunity will suddenly appear. No miracle is going to rescue you from mediocrity. If you want a different future, you must become different. And that transformation starts with eliminating excuses completely. Not reducing them, not managing them, destroying them. You must become the type of person who acts regardless of emotion. The type of person who keeps promises to themselves. The type of person who understands that discipline matters more than feelings. Because feelings change every day. Some mornings you will feel motivated. Other mornings you will feel exhausted. Some days you will feel confident. Other days you will feel doubt. If your actions depend on your emotions, your life will always remain unstable. Real power comes when you can operate without motivation. That is what separates winners from average people. The average person waits until they feel ready. The winner starts before they feel prepared. The average person stops when things become difficult. The winner keeps moving even when life becomes painful. The average person searches for reasons why something cannot be done. The winner searches for ways to make it happen. And understand this clearly, excuses are habits. The more excuses you make, the weaker your mind becomes. Every excuse trains your brain to escape discomfort. Every excuse teaches you to quit. Every excuse slowly destroys your confidence because deep inside you know you are betraying your own potential. But the opposite is also true. Every time you force yourself to act despite discomfort, you become mentally stronger. Every time you keep your word to yourself, your confidence grows. Every time you reject excuses and choose discipline, you build a mindset capable of achieving greatness. That is why discipline changes lives. Not because it feels good, but because it teaches you how to dominate yourself. And the person who can dominate themselves becomes unstoppable in the real world. Most people are controlled by impulses, controlled by laziness, controlled by distractions, controlled by fear. But the moment you learn to control your own mind, you gain an advantage over millions of people who are trapped by their excuses. Imagine where your life could be 1 year from now if you stopped making excuses today. Imagine the transformation if you became relentless. If you woke up every morning and attacked your goals no matter how you felt. If you stopped negotiating with weakness and started demanding more from yourself, because deep inside you already know what needs to be done. You know the habits destroying your future. You know the distractions stealing your time. You know the excuses keeping you average. The problem is not lack of knowledge. The problem is lack of action. And life punishes hesitation. Every day you delay becoming disciplined, somebody else gets ahead. Every day you waste complaining, somebody else is building strength. Every day you continue making excuses, your potential slowly dies while your regret grows louder inside your mind. One day, you will either thank yourself for staying disciplined or hate yourself for remaining weak. Most people are addicted to motivation because motivation feels exciting. It gives you temporary energy. It makes you feel unstoppable for a few hours. You watch a powerful video, listen to intense music, make a new plan for your life, and suddenly you believe everything is going to change overnight. In that moment, you feel powerful. You feel ready. You tell yourself this time will be different. But then morning arrives. The excitement disappears. The energy fades. Reality hits harder than inspiration. Suddenly your goals feel heavy again. The work feels difficult again. Your bed becomes comfortable again. Your mind starts creating excuses again. And just like that, the motivation that once made you feel unstoppable vanishes completely. That is why most people stay average their entire lives. They depend on emotion instead of discipline. They wait to feel motivated before taking action. And because emotions constantly change, their effort also changes. One day they work hard, the next day they disappear. 1 week they are focused, the next week they are distracted. Their life becomes unstable because their actions depend on feelings instead of principles. But successful people understand something different. They know motivation is unreliable. Consistency is what changes lives. The gym does not transform your body because you trained hard once. Money is not built because you worked one long day. Knowledge is not gained because you read one book. Everything valuable in life comes from repeated effort over a long period of time. Small actions repeated daily become massive results. That sounds simple, but most people fail because they underestimate the power of consistency. They are obsessed with quick success. They want instant transformation. They want results immediately. And when progress is slow, they quit before the reward arrives. Think about how many people start something with excitement and then disappear. They start going to the gym for 1 week and then stop. They begin a business and quit after facing problems. They promise themselves they will wake up early, eat healthy, stay focused, and work harder. But after a few difficult days, they return to old habits. Why? Because they never built consistency. Consistency is painful because it requires repetition without immediate reward. It demands effort even when progress is invisible. It forces you to continue through boredom, frustration, exhaustion, and doubt. Most people cannot handle that level of discipline because they are emotionally weak. They need excitement to function. But real winners do not rely on excitement. They rely on systems. They rely on habits. They rely on standards. The disciplined person wakes up and does the work whether they feel inspired or not. They understand that success is not created by one big moment. It is created by hundreds of small actions repeated every single day. That is why consistency always defeats motivation. Motivation can make you start. Consistency makes you finish. There are people with incredible talent who fail because they lack consistency. And there are ordinary people who become extraordinary simply because they refuse to stop. The world is full of gifted individuals who wasted their potential because they could not stay disciplined long enough to develop it. Talent without consistency becomes useless. You see this everywhere. People talk about what they could have been. They say they had potential. They say they almost succeeded. But almost means nothing in reality. Results are all that matter. The person who shows up every day will eventually defeat the person who only works when they feel motivated. Because consistency builds momentum. Every time you repeat a positive habit, your mind becomes stronger. Every day you continue despite discomfort, discipline becomes more natural. Every action reinforces your identity. Eventually, success stops feeling impossible because your habits begin carrying you forward automatically. But most people destroy themselves because they cannot remain consistent long enough to see results. The modern world has made this problem worse. People are addicted to instant gratification. Social media trained people to expect fast dopamine every few seconds. Entertainment is always available. Distraction is everywhere. The moment something becomes difficult, people escape into comfort. And comfort is the enemy of consistency. Comfort tells you to skip one day. Comfort tells you that resting is harmless. Comfort convinces you that tomorrow is a better time to start. But successful people understand something dangerous about delay. Every time you postpone action, you weaken your discipline. The hardest part is not starting. The hardest part is continuing. Can you continue when progress is slow? Can you continue when nobody supports you? Can you continue when results are invisible? That is the real test. Because most people are emotional creatures. They only feel excited when they see immediate rewards. If success takes too long, they lose focus. If life becomes uncomfortable, they quit. They confuse temporary emotions with long-term commitment. But consistency demands maturity. It demands that you stop acting like a child controlled by feelings. It demands that you become someone who can operate under pressure, boredom, stress, and fatigue without abandoning the mission. And understand this clearly. Your future is built by your daily routine, not by your dreams, not by your intentions, not by what you say. Your daily habits create your life. If your habits are weak, your future will be weak. If your habits are powerful, your future becomes powerful. The problem is that most people focus on huge goals while ignoring small daily actions. They want a better life, but they ignore the process required to build it. A powerful physique is built one workout at a time. A successful business is built one disciplined day at a time. Confidence is built one difficult decision at a time. Mental toughness is built every time you refuse to quit. Consistency looks boring to weak people because they are addicted to drama and excitement. But the truth is that greatness is boring. Success is repetitive. Winning requires doing the same difficult things over and over again until mastery is achieved. That repetition destroys weak minds. Weak people constantly search for shortcuts because discipline feels painful. They jump from idea to idea, plan to plan, motivation to motivation. But they never stay focused long enough to create real transformation. Meanwhile, disciplined individuals quietly build empires through consistency. While others waste time talking, they work. While others complain, they improve. While others search for excuses, they execute. And eventually the results become impossible to ignore. People will call them lucky. People will say success came easily. But nobody sees the lonely mornings, the sacrifices, the painful routines, the days when they continued despite exhaustion. Nobody sees the discipline behind the achievement. Consistency is invisible in the beginning, but undeniable in the end. That is why you must stop depending on motivation completely. Motivation is temporary energy. Discipline is permanent power. The moment you understand this, your life changes. You stop waiting for perfect emotions. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop asking yourself whether you feel like working. Instead, you simply execute because that is who you are. That identity shift is everything. When discipline becomes part of your identity, consistency becomes automatic. You no longer see hard work as punishment. You see it as your responsibility. You understand that every day matters. Every decision matters. Every habit matters. Because success is never one giant action. Success is built quietly day after day while most people are distracted. Imagine what happens if you remain consistent for 5 years. Imagine waking up every day focused on improvement while everybody else wastes time making excuses. Imagine the advantage you would build over average people who constantly quit. That is why disciplined people become unstoppable. Not because they are superhuman. Not because they never feel tired. Not because they are always motivated. They become unstoppable because they learned how to continue regardless of emotion. And that ability is rare. Most people collapse under pressure. Most people lose focus when life becomes difficult. Most people search for comfort instead of growth. But the person who masters consistency gains control over their future. Every day you remain disciplined, you separate yourself from average people. Every day you stay focused, you become mentally stronger. Every day you continue despite discomfort, you prove to yourself that weakness no longer controls your life. And eventually your habits shape your identity so deeply that quitting no longer feels natural because the person you are becoming refuses to stop. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid pain. They run from discomfort. They escape pressure. They search for the easiest path, the safest option, the quickest reward. They want comfort every single day. And then they wonder why they feel weak, lost, depressed, and unfulfilled. What they fail to understand is that comfort has never created greatness. Comfort has never built strong minds. Comfort has never transformed an ordinary person into someone powerful. Pain does that. Pain is the reason warriors are created. Pain is the reason discipline exists. Pain is the fire that burns weakness out of your mind. And the people who learn how to face pain instead of avoiding it become dangerous in this world. But modern society teaches people the opposite. People are taught to escape difficulty the moment life becomes uncomfortable. The second something feels stressful, they quit. The second they experience failure, they lose confidence. The second they feel emotional pain, they distract themselves with entertainment, social media, excuses, or laziness. That is why so many people are mentally fragile, because they never train themselves to survive hardship. A weak mind is created through comfort. Every time you avoid struggle, you teach yourself that discomfort is something to fear. Every time you quit under pressure, you weaken your identity. Eventually, even small problems begin to feel overwhelming because your mind has been conditioned to run instead of fight. Look at the world around you. People break down over criticism. People panic over failure. People collapse because of stress. Why? Because they spent years protecting themselves from discomfort instead of building resilience through it. Strength only comes through resistance. A muscle grows by being pushed beyond its limits. Mental toughness grows the exact same way. You cannot become stronger without pressure. You cannot become disciplined without sacrifice. You cannot become confident without surviving difficult moments. Pain is not punishment. Pain is training. The problem is that most people misunderstand pain. They think pain means something is wrong. They think difficulty is a sign to stop, but in reality, difficulty is often proof that growth is happening. When you enter the gym and train hard, your body hurts because it is adapting. When you study for hours while others relax, your mind feels pressure because it is growing. When you force yourself to stay disciplined despite exhaustion, your character becomes stronger. Everything valuable requires suffering first. That is why weak people stay weak forever. They only choose actions that feel comfortable in the moment. They follow emotion instead of purpose. They chase pleasure while avoiding responsibility. And over time, their entire life becomes small because they never develop the strength required to handle bigger challenges. But the people who embrace pain become unstoppable. Because once you realize you can survive hardship, fear loses its power over you. Think about the hardest moments of your life. The moments when you felt broken. The moments when you thought you could not continue. Those experiences changed you more than comfort ever did. Pain forces growth. Pain forces maturity. Pain forces you to discover parts of yourself that comfort keeps hidden. A comfortable life creates soft people. And soft people cannot survive in a competitive world because life does not care about your emotions. Life will challenge you whether you are ready or not. There will be betrayal, failure, rejection, financial pressure, loneliness, stress, loss. Pain is guaranteed. The only decision you control is whether pain destroys you or transforms you. Most people let pain destroy them because they immediately become victims. They ask, why is this happening to me? They complain. They seek sympathy. They surrender mentally before they even fight back. Strong people ask a different question. What is this pain teaching me? That mindset changes everything. The disciplined individual understands that suffering can become fuel. Every setback becomes motivation. Every rejection becomes energy. Every difficult experience becomes another layer of mental armor. And this is why successful people often have painful pasts. Pain forced them to evolve. Nobody becomes powerful by accident. Strength is earned through struggle. The strongest people you admire were shaped by pressure, sacrifice, discipline, and hardship. They became resilient because life forced them to adapt. But here is the dangerous truth most people never realize. If you constantly avoid pain, you also avoid growth. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you stay the same. Every time you escape difficulty, you remain weak. Every time you refuse to challenge yourself, your future shrinks. That is why discipline feels painful in the beginning. Waking up early hurts. Training hard hurts. Staying focused hurts. Controlling your impulses hurts. Sacrificing temporary pleasure for long-term success hurts. But there are two kinds of pain in life. The pain of discipline and the pain of regret. One builds your future, the other destroys your soul. And regret is far more painful. Imagine becoming older and realizing you wasted your potential because you were too weak to suffer temporarily. Imagine knowing you could have built a better life but chose comfort instead. That pain stays forever. Temporary struggle creates permanent strength. Temporary comfort creates permanent weakness. That is why you must train yourself to become comfortable with discomfort. You must learn how to operate under pressure instead of collapsing under it. Because the moment you stop fearing pain, you gain control over your life. Most people are controlled by fear because they are terrified of discomfort. Fear of failure stops them from trying. Fear of rejection stops them from speaking. Fear of hard work stops them from becoming disciplined. But courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite fear. And every time you face pain directly, your confidence grows stronger. Confidence is not built through positive thinking alone. Real confidence comes from surviving difficult experiences. It comes from proving to yourself that you can handle pressure, that you can continue despite exhaustion, that you can suffer without quitting. That type of confidence cannot be faked, because deep inside you know what you survived to build it. Weak people want life to become easier. Strong people become stronger. That difference changes everything. The weak man complains about challenges. The strong man adapts. The weak man searches for escape. The strong man searches for growth. The weak man avoids responsibility because it feels heavy. The strong man accepts responsibility because it creates power. And understand this clearly, pain reveals character. When life becomes difficult, masks disappear. Excuses disappear. Reality becomes visible. Pressure exposes discipline. Pressure exposes weakness. Pressure shows who is truly committed and who was only pretending. Anybody can speak confidently when life is easy. Anybody can dream when there is no sacrifice required. But can you remain focused when everything becomes difficult? Can you continue working when nobody believes in you? Can you stay disciplined when results are invisible? That is where strength is born. And this is why pain is necessary. Without struggle, you never discover your true limits. Without pressure, you never build resilience. Without sacrifice, success has no value. The difficult moments in your life are not interruptions to your journey. They are the journey. The strongest version of yourself is hidden behind pain, behind every difficult workout, behind every lonely night, behind every sacrifice, behind every moment where you wanted to quit but forced yourself to continue. That version of you cannot exist without struggle. Because greatness is not created in comfort. It is created in moments where weak people surrender, but disciplined people continue moving forward anyway. The moment you stop running from pain, you separate yourself from average people. While others search for comfort, you search for growth. While others avoid pressure, you embrace it. While others collapse emotionally, you become calmer, stronger, and more disciplined through hardship. And eventually life changes because you changed. Your mind becomes harder. Your discipline becomes automatic. Your confidence becomes real. Your standards rise higher than the average person could ever understand because you no longer fear suffering. You begin to realize that pain was never your enemy. Weakness was. So after everything you heard today, understand this one truth clearly. Your life will never change until you change yourself. Excuses will keep you weak, motivation alone will never save you, and avoiding pain will only trap you in an average life. The world rewards discipline, consistency, and mental strength. Every single day you wake up, you are making a decision. Either you move closer to the person you want to become, or you move closer to regret. Nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody is going to force you to become successful. The responsibility is yours. And that is powerful because the moment you stop blaming the world and start controlling your actions, your future begins to transform. There will be difficult days. There will be moments when you feel exhausted, frustrated, and ready to quit. But those moments are the test that separates ordinary people from unstoppable people. Weak people stop when life becomes painful. Strong people continue anyway. So from this moment forward, stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop wasting your potential on excuses and distractions. Force yourself to become disciplined. Force yourself to stay consistent. Force yourself to do the work even when you do not feel like it. Because one day the pain of discipline will turn into confidence, success, strength, and freedom. And years from now, you will either look back proudly at the person you became or painfully at the opportunities you destroyed by refusing to take control of your life today.